Hey everybody, Demonic Bunny here. I'm gonna try something a bit different today. Some people who might be watching my account from a while back know that I had a DS versus PSP video up, but I eventually took it down because, like I just told someone who commented on why it's not here anymore, it became a cesspool of insults toward me, my opinions, and like a feeding ground for trolls. It just went downhill. People didn't like my opinion, and I was getting tired of all the stupid comments and comparisons of my face to Michael Jackson and everything, so I took it down. So what I'm going to do today is I like the idea of my video, so I'm going to try and approach the topic again from more of a neutral perspective. So first, one of the big complaints about my last video was that since I said out of all the handhelds you should pick the Game Boy Advance, which is pretty much what I'm going to say again today, but everyone was like, you don't have a DS or a PSP and you're just too poor. Well, you know what? All you haters. DS, PSP. And just to further the insultation, if we look all the way over here, old school DS. Uses my alarm clock, because that's all it's good for now that I have this one. But yes, I have all of them, so please, they're physical, they're here, I can hold them and manipulate them, they're not like photoshopped into my movie. I have them. So what I'm going to do, instead of just saying Game Boy Advance is awesome, go get it, I'm just going to do a basic rundown of all the systems, and then I'll let you decide for yourself. So no one can flame me. Yeah. Alright, so let's start with the only one that's white, the DS Lite. So, this is... Hey look, it's me. Hi, me. See my crappy camera? Yeah, that's what I record all my videos with. I'm pretty dumb. Anyway, DS Lite. The newest DS. I'm sure they'll probably release a third revision eventually, but right now, it is the best DS system you can buy, since I just showed the other one being used as an alarm clock. It's got two screens. One's a touch screen, just anyone who might not know that by now. And the simplicity of use and the unique kinds of software that are released for it are really its big draws, as well as its relatively low cost in comparison to the PSP. If you want to benchmark it graphically, it's somewhere between the original PlayStation and the Nintendo 64 as far as its graphics are concerned. And it's got a bunch of good games out. And Mario Kart DS, Metroid Prime Hunters, Super Mario 64 DS, just to name a couple. There are a lot more out there that are really good. Most software developers are going to focus a lot more of their attention on the DS because right now it's outselling the PSP by a large percentage. So basically, I'd recommend picking up a DS Lite if you like a lot of software available for you to get. If you're into like the whole popular scene thing, you want to get the big thing that everybody gets. If you like an iPod just because it's an iPod, you want to get the DS Lite because it's a DS Lite and everybody who's cool has one, or whatever. Yeah, I just buy them for games. But if you're into that whole scene thing and you hang out with friends who game, you're probably going to want to get a DS Lite. Moving on to the one that I would personally choose, I guess. Oh, camera again. Game Boy Advance. I just happen to have the micro model on me with Pokemon Fire Red in it. But any of them will do, depending. This is if you're a cheap-ass motherfucker like I am, and you just want to spend as little money as possible, like this one. It's pretty much got the same kind of awesome bright screen that the DS Lite has, and obviously it's really tiny because the DS Lite itself is pretty small, and this thing's even smaller. So this is if you're a cheap bastard, because games can go as little as like only a couple dollars now, since it's been out for a long time. This model in particular does not play the older Game Boy Color, Game Boy games, but the Game Boy Advance SP and the original do. So if you have a huge collection of old Game Boy games, that's another reason you might want to consider picking up the Game Boy Advance, because you can still play all those. And this Game Boy Micro right now goes for, I think, $50 new. SP goes for $80 new, and then you can't really get the original model new anymore, but they go for used at like 20 bucks at GameStop or a similar gaming store. So if you don't want to spend a lot of money, if maybe handheld gaming, you're interested in it, but it's not like the be-all end-all thing, you much more focus on consoles, then Game Boy Advance will serve you well. Has a lot of good games. And finally, Sony PSP. Fuck, I keep seeing myself, it's scaring me. Stupid reflective screens on these handhelds. God. Anyway, PSP, it's pretty awesome. It's very expensive though. Games are about as expensive as console games nowadays for the PSP. So, if you have a lot of money, definitely pick it up. But, if you're going to pick up a PSP, if like you want to, I'd definitely wait, since at E3 they just announced a revision of the PSP. It's going to be like thinner and like it's going to have better battery life. It's going to have TV out on the bottom, so you can output anything from the system onto a TV. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Let's talk about the features. Graphically, the PSP... Okay, I gotta stop doing that. The PSP is, I'd say, between the Dreamcast and the PS2, to graphically benchmark it in layman's terms. The only problem with the PSP is that the screen, even though it's awesome, it's 4.3 inches, so it's really big. It's good for watching movies and obviously playing your games, but the refresh rate on it is really bad, so everything will like blur and ghost. Like if you remember the old Game Boys, like the Game Boy Pocket, how there'd be like that blurring effect every time something started moving, that happens on the PSP as well. So if you are like me and that just drives you insane, then I'd suggest waiting for the redesign. I don't know if they're going to fix that, but if they're smart they will, but I doubt it, just because I want them to fix it so bad. Big advantage PSP has is an analog stick. Kind of, it's more like a nub, but it works like an analog stick. A lot of people are complaining that there should be a second one, but I mean, it really doesn't hinder games that much. The only thing a single analog stick really hinders is when people are porting games from consoles over to the PSP. They don't really take control into consideration, and that causes problems. Another drawback to the PSP is the price. It's $200. The fact that there really isn't that many great games. Like, the only game that I really got into on the PSP was Luminous. But if you're into Luminous, definitely get it. Oh god, the game's so good. If you get a PSP, it's awesome. Over here on the side of the PSP, memory stick slot, so you can put, I believe now they have 8 gig memory sticks. They're expensive, like everything else you're going to get for the PSP. But that'll give you 8 gigs of movies, music, and whatever else you want to do. It has built-in Wi-Fi, so there is an internet browser on it, so you can browse the internet. Not as great as you'd say on your computer, but it's definitely better than your average cell phone browser by a pretty good amount of awesomeness. Stereo speakers on the bottom are a bit tinny, but there is proprietary headphone jack, non-proprietary headphone jack here. So I usually play my PSP with earbuds anyway. So yeah, your 3 choices. That was my basic little overview. Maybe eventually I'll do a couple more videos going into each one in more detail. But yeah, I think I did okay now. Not trying to insult anybody. Trying to stay relatively neutral. So, if you like innovation, if you like a lot of games available, and you like having what everybody else has, DS Lite. If you're a cheap ass and you want to spend as little as possible, or handheld gaming just isn't that big of a deal for you, but you still kind of like it, Game Boy Advance. If you have a lot of money to burn, you want a console experience on the go, and you like multimedia features, PSP. Okay, that's all. Bye. Bye-bye.